So anxiety and the cold bath. You've been doing some research about it.
Yeah. So you brought up something. The anxiety for me has never been a big thing. Don't get me wrong. I've had a little bit of it, but it's quickly identified, and I didn't start dealing with anxiety until I was a business owner.
Right, which is nuts because it's literally like you're going to battle to go like have a bunch of dudes shoot at you and you don't have anxiety.
Zero. Calm, cool, and collective, bro. Like,
But
no
then
big
you
deal.
get
This
out
is all normal. This is normal life.
And you've got to like sign a bunch of business documents and you're like, fuck, this is
And
serious.
like, am I moving the needle fast enough? Holy shit, this is a lot. Anyways, so with all that said, I was actually looking into, like, cause obviously, like, as we deal with clients, and don't get me wrong, I have had bouts of dealing with anxiety. I'm just not crippled by anxiety because I have tools. I have tools in place to deal with it, and I acknowledge what it is, and I've studied what it is, and it is a fear of the unknown. It is a fear of this future task that I have to do. So I started looking into it as far as what it is and how the body responds to it. And I go, okay, this is what it is. And then looking into, as I've gotten more into cold therapy since Iceland, when we did it with Hapthor at his house, I think it was his 7th Iceland Ironman.
Oh, wow.
I want to think it was number 7, I think. Anyways, we did some hot cold therapy.
The one we did.
The one we
went to
did,
see.
yeah. The one when we were there. So he was explaining the recovery aspect of it. And so since getting into it, and I was deathly afraid of the cold. So one of the things is, for me, not afraid, I don't know. I just don't like it. I'm like, I don't like being cold. I don't like cold water. I just don't want it.
You're a summer kind guy.
Period.
Yeah.
I grew up in Florida. The Gulf is like 80 degrees, or not even more than that. It's like bath water. Like
you like to be hot.
I like to be hot. And, so the cold has been a weakness of mine mentally. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well, as I've gotten better, as I've gotten stronger and better, and, as I've gotten older and more anti-fragile, that was one of the weaknesses that I wanted to kill. So boom, right into the ice, like started getting ice baths. Not only that, but I'm getting older and recovery is a little bit more, takes a little more action. So I'm more, being more intentional about my recovery. And that's a big part of it. So looking into what ice baths, and particularly like what cold plunge has been putting out of, a lot of different data about depression and, how it's not curing, but how it's treating people with like autism and anxiety and all this kind of stuff. So we were looking, you and I were talking about it, and what getting a person into the ice triggers the same physical and mental response that an anxiety attack does.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you get in, you immediately can't breathe.
Panic.
It's immediately fight or flight. Like your flight response goes in like, I'm freaking out. I can't breathe. I have to get out. So it's an amazing tool because for somebody who's dealing with an anxiety, it gives you because anxiety is not a physical problem that you have to solve. It is a physical thing. It can
become a physical thing, yeah.
It is a physical thing, but it's not something that you can like. It's not something I can tangibly do. It's something I have to think about and process and that sort of thing. But see, when you get into the ice, you get into 30, 40 degree water. This is a physical thing that I can control with my breathing and overcome. Because I'm getting the same response, but it's something that I'm physically doing. So
your central nervous system is on fire.
Yeah,
like
so
you are
freaking out. Yeah, but here's the beauty. So I'm triggering this anxiety response by getting into the ice. If I can master that, if I can, through breath work, through a coach, through somebody who understands what they're doing, and I've worked with a lot of people on this since I've been doing it. And like I said, I wanted to master this thing and not be afraid of it anymore. You are now getting the tools to deal with the anxiety attack because it's the same response, both mentally and physically. And if you can get into the ice and you can control your breath and you can control your mind, when those things happen, you now go, oh, this is the same thing. I need to control my breath, control my mind. And because by doing that, you become more mentally resilient and you've just moved the needle in your life. And you don't have to be a champ out the gate. If you get in there and you're like, I'm going to do 30 seconds. I'm going to do breath work. I'm going to do my pre-breath work. I'm going to do breath work in there. And I'm working with somebody. And then I get out, I'm going to work on my breath work, my post ice bath. 30 seconds. And then you do a minute, 60 seconds. And you work your way up to the 3-minute mark. But I mean, I've done this with grown men. I've done this with kids at the Squire program. 11-year-old kids, same thing. They go internal, breath work's freaking out, their breath is freaking out, they're freaking out, full panic mode. And you have to work with them. You have to get them to see that they're strong enough to do it. That changes everything. So anyways, it's a very cool tool to take something that's a mental issue that someone might be dealing with, put it into a physical problem that they can then solve and become accustomed to.
And then afterwards feel incredible.
Yeah. And take all the recovery and all that aside, just if you look at it from just the mental thing, but they're talking about people that are dealing with autism and utilizing it to get them back into their own bodies and get them to learn how to control themselves, self-awareness and things like that. Same thing with, it's curing things with depression, anxiety. It's just amazing. And then you add on all the other stuff, the increased metabolism, the recovery, the sleep. When I started doing it, you mentioned about my mood in the morning.
Yeah. Oh my God. You're not a morning person at all.
Nope.
But you do them. And as soon as you do them, you are.
I'm fine. It's immediately
switched on. I wasn't even allowed to talk to you until you had deemed it time.
Well, you can be here.
Just don't speak.
Just don't speak to me. Yeah. But now I get up early and I go do that. And by the time I come out, I'm like, hey, it's 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, what's up, guys?
I'm like, babe,
let's do the deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyways, so that's an amazing tool, and I highly recommend everyone doing that. I actually just did a whole talk with the Agoge people on the 3 different styles of ice baths and et cetera.